Umesh, lovely to see you, a serial award winner for Car Dealer magazine. Tell the guys here a little bit about your setup and the challenges you're facing at the moment.
Good to be on here again, James. Thank you very much for inviting me. Start again. Thanks for inviting me, James. It's good to be on stage again. Very small operation, one-man band basically. Been in business 20 years, it'll be this year. Survived through all of it, you could say. Challenges-wise, I think, like everybody else has mentioned, it's buying the right cars, marketing with the right order, and trying to make a good margin out of them. That's pretty much it. I think we've all got the same challenges overall.
Are there any opportunities that you guys think that independent dealers should be taking advantage of at the moment?
I think a big thing for us is local presence. So I'm a very good self-promoter. I do a lot on Facebook. We're always doing it, and I also share it to my personal page because that means locally people who know me personally know what we do and know that if they want to sell a car, we'll buy it. If they want a car sourcing, we can source it, and that's been really good for me. But I'm of the younger generation. You know, we were using Facebook when it first came out, and we've carried on to unit, so we're a little bit savvy with that. But yeah, definitely digitally. Get on there. Just even it's a struggle. It's not going to be easy for anyone, but you'll learn and you'll look at the big boys and you'll take a bit from here, take a bit from there, and just try and put your own spin on it and just try and add a bit of uniformity as well.
Do you use Facebook organically, or do you actually boost your posts and put some money behind them?
Anyone who uses Facebook organically is personally, I think, is going to struggle. The way it's gone, the algorithms have changed. If you're not paying, you're not getting anywhere, and that's with everything, I think. And you've got to be really good to do it organically, but all the big guys are sponsoring posts. They're putting a lot of money into Facebook, and you can see why. And luckily, we were there just ahead of the pack. But again, as algorithms change, we've got to keep an eye on that and try and keep forward.
We've got to say a welcome to Sean, who's just joined us on the end.
Yeah, my apologies for that.
Thanks for joining us.
So we'll just catch you up with where we were. We were just talking about what challenges do you feel are facing independent dealers at the moment? And I guess, do you want to share a bit about what you guys do at Geoff Cox to the audience and what your situation's like?
Yeah, I mean, we're a small family business, been established for 50 years now. And we have the Subaru franchise, which equates for a very small element of what we actually do. But what it does is it adds the credibility for a good, successful used car operation, which is the core of the business.
What do you think is the biggest challenge then?
I think, I mean, at the end of the day, there's lots of changes in the financial environment, politically and everything else. And, you know, I mean, from our point of view, we kind of operate from one end of the spectrum to the other. So we cater to all tastes and price brackets. So I think whenever there's any change on the horizon, people do tend to reserve what they are going to do until there's a little bit more stability in the financial climate.
And Ross, you deal with very beautiful high-end cars. How are you finding that at the more premium end of the market?
I think now we've hit sort of spring, summertime, they've now come into their own. I found the first couple of months, January, February, a little bit slow going. Four-wheel drives were still doing well, naturally, because it's winter. So obviously we have the benefit of both, the four-wheel drive side and the sports and prestige, which is good. But I think the sort of more performance stuff now, since we've sort of hit March, has really come into its own, and that stuff is selling really, really well for us at the minute. I think, unfortunately, the four-wheel drive market has eased off a bit, possibly to do with all this sort of Dieselgate situation. I don't think it's helping things, if I'm honest. And we're definitely seeing an improvement on petrol selling, without a shadow of a doubt. So I think that's probably one to watch in a minute. I think the petrol situation, if I'm honest. Do you know?
So I'm really interested in how you guys see things moving forward digitally. Do you think buyers are ever going to be ready to buy off your websites purely online? So I'll start with Umesh, because I know Umesh loves the internet.
I'm not sure if they're quite ready to buy online. I sell quite a few where people have seen the videos, have seen the pictures. They'll commit pretty much 90% to buying the cars. But as to 100% click and buy, I'm not convinced. I think people still want the experience. They want to touch, feel, smell. It's a big expense at the end of the day. If you're buying, a pair of shoes over the internet, it's a different thing. Whereas I think with a used car, it's very unique. So I'm not quite sure if it's 100% there yet. Plus, I think really you need to get the customers to your dealership anyway to give them the full experience rather than just a car over the phone.
Okay. Sean, what about yourself? What do you think? Customers going to buy on your website ever?
I mean, we try and put everything, as much information as humanly possible with the reviews, as many pictures and video, to take them right, to the point where they actually need to make the decision. But, the buy online, reserve online, perhaps, yeah, but there has always got to be that human contact within any kind of sale. I mean, because the marketplace the showroom is online now, so people do buy up and down the country. So you want to remove the amount of visits to the dealership and just keep it to one, ideally. But yeah, I think there'll always have to be that human element of physical contact with the car within it.
Ross, what about yourself?
I think when it comes to used cars, I think people will always want to, generally speaking, see the car before they've actually paid for the car. I think maybe new stuff might be different. I think there's probably a market there for that. But I think when it comes to used stuff, especially speaking in the sector that I'm in, it's, fairly expensive stuff. And I think when people are making those large transactions, I think for peace of mind, I think they probably want to see it before they're fully paid for it, if that makes sense.
What about you, Mohammed?
I think it depends really, because what do you class as buying online? Because I always have this opinion that as we're more tech savvy and as we're taking more photos, more high resolution photos, if they commit to a buy, would you class that as a buy if they put a deposit down? But it's not rare for us to take a £9,000 payment by bank transfer and then deliver the car. We've done it, it can be done. And I think the main thing that people are looking at now is reviews. If you're not on top of your reviews, or if you've got bad reviews, you're never going to get that £9,000 payment without them viewing the car. But luckily, touch wood, we don't have a bad review, and we're quite on it. We ask for them, we want the reviews. And people do read up about you, because I've had people that comment on the reviews, and with that, they'll give you their trust. And that's, we're always on the back foot as car dealers, no matter what anyone says. A smaller independent, when they come on, a lot of people will think you're trying to have them over, but I think there's a fine line between dealers that are in it and think it's okay to just sell it with a scratch, and then you'll get dealers like us that will prep them properly. If it is a scratch, we'll get it done. If it needs a service, we'll get it done. And I think that's where you've really got to differentiate yourself. Spend the money on the car, and then that will sell. If you think that it will sell as it is, then you're risking it. But personally, we like to prep them properly, make sure they're impeccable when they're photographed or when they're viewed, and then you'll know that they'll come and they'll buy it, because they've not got a reason not to.
Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to ask a question?
Any questions, anybody? No? Well, we'll carry on.
We sort of touched on with Anita earlier about the impact of TV adverts for new car dealers. Sean, how's your TV career impacted selling cars?
It hasn't really. I got recognised at the chip shop last week. That was. No, I mean, at the end of the day, because the way we go to market, we reach out and grab that particular customer for that car. If by chance somebody sees something on TV and it happens to be on the forecourt of our dealerships, then fair enough. But I mean, from the TV side of things, for us, it's got us a few more Facebook likes, and and that's it really. It's not we're not going to be hosting the next Wheeler Dealers or anything like that.
Oh, I assumed that you were late because you were mobbed by people wanting autographs and things on the way in.
No, not quite. We took a wrong turn on the track, so we thought we'd do a little lap.
Well, I certainly enjoyed the show. When it comes to marketing, guys, I mean, where do you spend your most amount of money, and what works for you?
It's quite easy. Auto Trader.
Touchy subject.
That's where the most amount of money goes.
Is it
Got
worth
a price
it?
increase next week.
But at the same time, it does work. In all fairness, it's a necessary evil, I think. It costs a lot of money. I think just for me now, with about nearly up to 100 cars, I think it's roughly sort of £7,000 a month, which is a lot of money for an internet website. But at the same time, when you look at the ratio that we sell to money spent, I wouldn't ever come away from it, if that makes sense.
So there's a lot of other rivals out there to Auto Trader now. A lot of them are at the show today. Do you guys use any of them? Are you having any success with any of them?
I personally use most of them, to be fair. When you look at the pricing structure compared to what you pay for Auto Trader, as opposed to motors, etc., where they're so much cheaper, you only need to sell, in my market, one car every 2 to 3 months, and it's more than paid for itself. And they definitely deliver that return on investment, that's for sure. Not to the same level as Auto Trader, to be fair, but it's still a decent return on investment. But the pricing structure is so wildly different, and I think that's where there needs to be a little bit of market disruption, personally.
Umesh, are you trying anybody else?
I mean, I'm using Auto Trader. I've tried one or two other platforms. They don't simply work for me. Auto Trader works to a certain degree, but I think with the few changes they've done the last few months, to be honest with you, the results are very, very poor. It's certainly not generating the number of leads for the investment each month. And I think there's quite a lot of dealers finding the same situation. At the end of the day, if it's not viable, then I think there's a lot of people going to be coming off the platform. It's all about return on investment. And I think that's why we're all looking at different avenues. Mo mentioned Facebook. I think we're all trying Facebook. It's got to be better returns at the end of the day.
Sean, what about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, we have pretty much all of them that are worth having. And the way I look at it, I mean, yeah, Auto Trader is by far our biggest overhead, and it is, but it generates the most amount of income into the dealership. And like it or love it, like it or hate it, it's there, and it's kind of, they do dominate the market. So you have to have a presence on there. And the way I look at it from the other platforms is that I only need to sell 1, perhaps 2 cars for it to pay for itself in that given month. And I'm on the ball, looking at those statistics just to make sure that the juice is always worth the squeeze on the other platforms, and it is. And I get rid of some, and I take some on, and I'm constantly changing it.
Are any of you guys using video to promote your cars?
Yeah, we use videos. Yeah, we're just in the process of getting a nice polished, a generic across all the stock.
So do you do that for every car, or is it just? Do you do that for every car, or?
We will do. Yeah, it's not on every single car that we've got, but hopefully in the next month it'll be on every single vehicle.
And does that have a massive impact? Sorry, Umesh.
Sorry, Rebecca. Yeah, I mean, I've done videos for the last 3 years or so. Every car, full walk-around video, full HD video. It just makes it very transparent. The customers can see all the way around the car. It's not just images. They know exactly what they're going to get before they arrive, and that's why a lot of customers, I say, do buy cars over the phone because they've seen the car, and it just literally is the final touch when they arrive. So videos do work. It's so easy as well. There's nothing complicated about it. 3-minute video takes 3 minutes.
Yeah, we use them now as well, to be fair. Finding it pretty effective. We use a platform called See It Now, which we're finding to be really, really good. Not only can we use See It Now for doing the actual videos on the website, which obviously we then use for social media as well, but all of the sales guys can also use See It Now to do video presentations to their customers. So before the customers has even come to meet us at the site, the salesman can do a personal presentation, introduce themselves on video. It almost breaks that barrier before they've even come down. And obviously then send the customer an email of the video of the car itself. And the good thing as well, you can actually see how many times the customers watch the video. So sometimes you'll send it to the customer, and you can see they've watched it like 35, 40 times. Wow. So they obviously like it. So I think it's something which is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger as time goes on. Because I think it's just the way that, the world is moving. I think kids these days, my son is on YouTube all the time. And, as people get older, they're going to be buying cars. They're all going to be on YouTube watching videos. So personally, I think it's definitely the way forward, personally.
We don't use it at the minute, but it's definitely something that we need to implement. I've seen See It Now. I think last time I was here, we really noticed it. And, all the big dealers are doing it. It's for us, it's having the time to do it. There's a couple out there, smaller independent dealers that are putting some great videos together. I think Jim Reed's team are one of them, and they just look great, but once we get a bigger site, hopefully we'll have a bit more room and a bit more time to play around with it. But yeah, I agree, it's definitely the way the market's going.
What about social media in general? What platforms do you invest your time in, and do you actually sell any cars using social media?
We do a lot on Facebook. We've definitely sold a lot of cars on Facebook, and I think there's a fine line because bigger dealerships are not really interested in putting the cars on Facebook. They're doing brand awareness, whereas we're smaller and we can't really focus on brand awareness. We need to focus on trying to get a car sold, and we've sold some good cars on there, like 15-plate discos, and you think, wow, that's really paid for itself on that car. And also locally, again, when I'm touching back your local awareness, locally they can see the cars you're doing, see what you're selling, see what you're buying, so you've planted that seed in their brain. When they're ready for a German car, which is what we specialise in, they think, do you know what, I'm going to go down and see Whitethor. I've been looking at their bloody sponsored posts all year, why not? And I think it's sometimes about planting the seed and hopefully getting them onto your forecourt when they're ready as well.
Yeah, I'm finding, to be fair, Facebook is working really, really well now. We're putting the videos of the cars that we do onto Facebook. Before we would do some photos of cars, not bombard people, because I think people get bored of that, just seeing everyday cars arriving, it gets boring. Whereas we're finding on Facebook with videos of cars, we're getting a lot more interaction, people are liking a lot more. And we are definitely selling cars through Facebook now. Not loads and loads, but we are definitely selling cars through social media. Instagram's another really good one. It's all about photos, all about pictures. I think sometimes if you can mix it up a little bit, not be too repetitive. I think Instagram is another really, really good one as well now, to be fair.
I think you've got to be on all the platforms at the end of the day. Yes, it does sell the cars at the end of the day, but I think it's also building the brand, the trustability. I mean, I've had customers comment to me where they've been on the website, then looked on Facebook, read the reviews, to build a whole picture of where they're actually buying the car from or who they're dealing with. So I think it's not just a matter of selling, it's building credibility online.
And Sean?
I agree with that. It's having cohesion between your website, between the social media. From our point of view, we don't necessarily use it as a platform to advertise our stock, but more of a bit of a window into the personality of the business. We have a little bit of fun on there and stuff. We do have a link into the Facebook shop, which has got all the stock on there, but we kind of prefer to have it as a bit more of a window into the personality of the dealership.
Okay, we've got a couple of minutes left. Has anybody in the audience got any questions for our panel? Any burning questions? No, okay. Well, we've obviously got some big political upheaval at the moment with Brexit and the general election. Are you guys finding that's affecting car sales in any way?
I personally found that when the run-up to the announcement of Brexit, I think the sort of 2 weeks leading up to that, we definitely eased off. It was more quiet. I think the decision was made on the Friday. On the Saturday, I think we sold about 7 or 8 cars. It was almost like people just digested it, accepted it, went okay, and then it was business as normal. So really quite bizarre. I was expecting it to have quite a bad effect on business because it was a bit of a shock, I think, to most people coming out of Europe. But literally on the Saturday, I mean, I can't speak for other people, but I only know what we, did as a business, and literally the following day it was back to business as normal again. So it didn't have too much of an impact on my business anyway, I'm pleased to say.
I think in reality that the decision's been made. I think we've just got to go with it, whichever way anybody voted. I think people just thought that, just get on with it. And as Ross said, I don't think it's particularly impacted a lot of businesses because I think the majority have been quite positive about it. Let's just be positive, get on with it, and make the best of it. Can't change it now. We're on the journey, aren't we?
Sean?
Yeah, the same really. I mean, I don't think it's had a direct effect. It's just, we just need to kind of put a lid on it and move on. And the sooner we can do that, everybody can kind of stabilise, and that's it really.
I don't know if it had a direct effect, but our business, compared to last year, the numbers were really good, and the beginning of this year, January, February, March, they weren't bad, but they were just stable. They didn't really fluctuate much. But then we've picked up again this month massively, and I don't know whether everyone's either just reserving themselves in what they're spending or whether they are feeling the pinch a little bit. But for one instance, a chap who works for HSBC, he sold us his X5 because HSBC were moving him out the country. They moved all their head offices out the country into European countries because they don't know where they're going to stand, and that's France. So I think there will be an element of it in there somewhere. But, you know, Great Britain is a big country, and they're still going to be buying cars no matter what.
That's really interesting, actually. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. Really great to hear what you think about everything. Next up, we are going to have Mark Giaconelli from Romans International talking about selling supercars and how that works.
Yeah, thanks very much to our panel. Please put your hands together for the guys.